On the panel, we have Christopher Lim and Sujata Dasgupta. I'm going to ask you each to, take a moment, introduce yourself, and then we will move into the session. So, Christopher, perhaps you might begin.
Thank you. Good morning, good evening, everyone. Depending which part of the world you're at. I'm Christopher Lim from Gleematic. I'm the CEO and co-founders of Gleematic, and we founded the company 5 years ago. So basically what I do is to help FI to automate their compliance. And basically what we do is that we take out boring works and bring in transform them with more interesting work for you using AI. Thank you.
Sounds pretty delightful. Thank you so much. But what are your top realistic benefits from your point of view of AI in compliance that are already happening or potentially will be happening with our teams?
Yes, I think Sujata have touched a lot on the benefit to the organizations. I'd like to touch a bit more benefit to your customers. If you are banks or insurance serving the customers, right? I think the key thing is the customers, they want instant answers, whether their policies, if you apply for a bank loan, whether you can get it instantly. And if you're applying for insurance policies, will I get it approved immediately? I think this is the thing when we talk about speed, but speed is not just for internal operations. Speed is also a value that you can add value to our customers, especially with a lot of fintech, right? They are promoting the 3 seconds, 2 seconds approval. So these are the things where the AI are coming in. So if you are traditional banks, right, these are the things where because you have a lot of compliance to handle, you think that it's really very difficult for you to reach the kind of speed. But I think with AI and with the kind of integrations that is possible now, that will give you a big benefit itself to getting new customers. The other area, of course, is retention. I think the retention of your customer is very important. So one of the key areas is that the AI could actually kind of surprise your customers. When we talk about giving surprise referrals, things that add value to your customers. I think the AI can scrub through millions of data points and then understand where the customers are like to have, and they can give the right recommendations. So these are kind of additional benefit itself that the AI can bring. And just another touch on another point, because we're already talking about workforce, right? I think the other area is, of course, we've thought one benefit is actually retention of the staff. If you talk about the new generation of the youngsters, right, they have very short attention span. They will be more interested to do interesting jobs, right, and not eyeballing thousands of documents and asking you to do this day in and day out the same thing. So instead of them, AI allowed them no longer working in the system, but actually work on top of the systems, and that's make it very interesting for them. Yeah, I think there's another areas that a lot of FI or insurance or institution can start looking at that as well.
What are your top concerns given the capabilities of AI, how we're using AI now, how we might be using AI in the future, and again, wearing our compliance risk hats?
I think one of the things that people always tell me, how do you actually prevent AI from having bias? So actually, the first thing that I think for a lay person, you need to understand how do the AI actually come out the rules. The AI actually come out the rules by looking for a pattern in your data points. So the thing like here is that I think one of the areas that we have this role we call the data engineer. Here's the role we actually go around collecting the data and ensure the data are cleaned properly. And I would say that the key thing before to prevent biases, right, is to have what you call a balanced data. So what is balance, right? Balanced data means that you collect data. Let's say that, for example, if you are predicting a risk profile, then you really need to segment your data set into equal amount and ensure that when you look through the data set, right, and you only can deploy the model when you are confident enough that when you apply this, whether to a different race or even different skin color or different kind of a background, right, is actually don't have the it actually is giving you the right probability and not having bias because your data set are kind of skewed to one kind of race or kind of job itself. I think this is one very important factors to look at. The other area, of course, that we come in is that when do we know, right, that the softwares or the models are really not working or is biased? And this is require a lot of testing. And we always say that this is where the AI actually will mask certain data that not be seen by the model, so that we can actually test it. Of course, the next thing we're looking about is the explainability of data, and also whether the data, the model, along the way, right, is there a drift? We call it AI drift. Means that maybe you have the existing customer profile or the population may have changed, or there's a significant big event like now we have the COVID, everyone's staying at home. The profile of your customers may have changed, and you may have to stop the model now, but go back and relook at the basic again. So these are things that it requires certain judgment and environment feel. I say the gut feel, that a lot of times, right, we have to be on top of the model. You cannot totally just depending on the model. You need to check and do sampling tests of the model to make sure that it's still working as it is. So this is a good way to one of the concern that a lot of organizations should have. So that we can then trust that we have a good tool, and this tool is really helping us, helping the organization, and also helping our customers.
And what I'd like to do is look at this from a macro perspective with the future of compliance, and then a micro perspective, giving our understanding of the evolving needs of compliance and the resources available to us, such as AI. Any tips on to the head of compliance, the head of risk, on designing and staffing up their team? The team that's going to be serving as advisors, making sure that we're rolling out the advisory and compliance and risk in a fashion that the regulator is looking for, and our customers are looking for, and our organization is looking for, while working alongside and tapping AI.
Okay, great. I think first of all is that this RegTech is a very fast evolving area. And I will recommend staff that it's good because when you talk about RegTech with AI and compliance, you really need both sides of the skill sets. So you need to know about compliance. How do you actually design the compliance process? You also need to know the limitations of what the tools that you have. And from there, you will say that the good mix of the compliance department as well as data scientists, and with all these soft skills as well as soft skills of communicating with each other, and of course the ability to keep learning and the courage to try, because it's a very evolving area. We need to try new tools, new technology, and keep our mind open. I think that will give you a success formula. Yeah.
Chris, could I ask you to expand upon any of those roles that might be new, any of the roles that are there, how they might be optimized to add value?
I think one of the key new roles that a lot of people will be looking at is that you need someone who already understands the legalities of the regulations, and how do you actually translate this to a data that can fit into the machine. We call it a corpus analyzer. Someone who knows how to analyze the right type of data to fit into the learning or the machine learning model, so that it can actually mimic what the human, when they read these informations, and the kind of decision that can come out. So this is kind of very important, because as what I say that in any machine learning model, right, first you need to make sure the data set are clean, and the data set does not have any bias. And this is where there's a new set of skills, a combination of both compliance train as well as having the technical skills of understanding what the limitation of the machine learning model, and also knowing when you need to actually tune the machine learning model by looking at external events, that understanding that these data are not included in your previous trained model. You need to add on all this data and keep tuning this model. So in a conclusion, I would say that the future job will be example of I use the banks as examples, right? We have more ATMs we may have more ATMs coming out in the world, but yet the banks and financial institutions have been hiring more people. Their job have been transferred from doing the job of transaction to a high value added job of doing consulting. But this consulting is not just consulting the human, but you also consulting the AI model. So you are actually a trainer or the mentor to the AI. Yeah. So this will be the new role in the future.
And Chris, how does one go about learning these new skills? And regrettably, we didn't hear the panelists before us, so apologies if we were being repetitive. I hope we're augmenting what they said before us. But from your point of view, how does an individual start developing those skills?
Wow,
is it
question.
Only for the young ones coming out of school?
Yeah, I think you can get a lot of skill sets by joining here, this event. Right. First, to know where.
Yeah, you start showing up at events like this, right?
Yes. Second thing, I think, I think that and also the associations, they conduct a lot of good courses. Yeah. And the other areas, if you are more advanced, in Singapore, there is this called IBF. They conduct very good courses. Yeah, in this area, Singapore Business, IBF itself. Yeah, under which actually managed by MAS. Yeah.
Any closing thoughts, Christopher? Just ever so quickly.
Okay, I just want to add one closing thought. Right, people ask me that will actually AI take over the compliance department? Whether it's in 5 years or in 10 years time, will that ever happen? I just give a very basic understanding is that we must understand all these regulations, right, are actually designed for humans. A machine is not a human, and it will never understand a human because it's not a human, right? So the key thing lies here is that we should keep our mind open that these are new tools that are available for us to add value to our job, to add value to our customers. So stay hungry, keep trying, and have the courage to fail because it's a new thing, right? We don't know. Sometimes we make some mistakes, and I also say is that when there's a change, there's an opportunity. So you should take this opportunity to actually improve your career. So to me, it's really kind of how you look at it. So stay open mind, and this will be a great opportunity for you, for everyone. Yeah, that's my take.